Today we're working on a 2005 Honda Pilot. It's got 181,000 miles on it. We're going to do a transmission fluid change. First I'll show you where the dipstick is for the transmission. It's that yellow you see right down there. And it's pretty simple, pulls in and out and tells you the level. And then back here I'm going to show you where to fill the transmission at. If you look, get the light just right, you can see that nut or bolt head, however you want to say it, to the left to where that wire is plugged in, the black one to the right there. That is what you will unscrew to actually get down in the transmission to fill it back up. These are the torque specifications I found online. As you can see, the top is for the transmission, the bottom is for the rear end. Don't be afraid to look around the internet yourself and compare. Everything I found seemed to match up, so these are the specifications I went with. Alright, so I'm going to give you all the list of the tools that I'm going to use today. I have a 3/8 drive ratchet. That's what I'll use to break free the drain plug in the bottom of the transmission. I have a 6-in 9-inch extension with a 17mm 6.3/8 drive socket, and I'll use that to get to the the fill bolt on top of the transmission. And then I have my torque wrench to use for the specified torques that I listed at the beginning of this video. I have my long funnel that I'll use to get down into the top of the transmission to refill it. This is the transmission fluid that Honda sold me today. I would make sure you recommend going to Honda. That's just my personal thing. Their transmissions can be touchy, and 4 quarts of this to do this change was $37, $38. And for me to know that it came from them and it's the right stuff, you know, transmission is not cheap to fix. So I just went that route, and that way I know I'm getting the right stuff. Here's my pan that I'm going to tell you about later on, but it's from the hospital, and it's a good low-lying pan to use. I did wipe it clean before I drained anything in it. That way I can see when I pour the fluid back out of it and into a different container, you know, if there's anything extra that comes out of the transmission. This one today, just so you can see on the side of the bottle, there are gauges as far as the ounces, which are on the right, and the milliliters, which are on the left. This change today used 116 ounces, 3 quarts, and then 22 ounces out of this one. It is going to vary depending on how the car's sitting, and so I would recommend you fill it to a certain point to where, you know, at least 3 to 3 point something quarts, to where you can get it up there and then get it on level ground, and after that you fill as you go. You do not want to overfill them, so as I will say later on, there is a couple dots on the dipstick, and you want to make sure that you're in between those 2 dots, but more closer to the top dot. So I hope this will help you get your project started. Underneath the car is pretty simple. All it takes right here is this plug right up here, right there, and it's got a 3/8 drive ratchet head in it. You can tell this one's been rounded a little bit, but I've had it out before, so it shouldn't be a big deal. And I'll take it out, we'll drain the fluid and go from there. This is the fluid draining out of the hole. As you can see, it's almost done. I did want to tell you that Honda will say use 3 to 4 quarts, usually 4 quarts for this change. This is not a full change or a flush. This is just an intermittent change where you'll drain out part of what's in the transmission. It does not get whatever's in the torque converter all out. That takes closer to 8 to 9, I believe. But anyways, I want to let you know that your pan, or whatever you use, does need to be able to hold 4 quarts of oil. I actually, you're going to laugh at this, but I actually use a pan that we got from the hospital years ago. And the nice thing about it is it's very low profile, so it gets right underneath there. And it didn't cost me a thing because I got it from somebody else and it was never used. So anyways, that's that, and I'll get back with you here in a little bit. This is the drain plug that I pulled out of the car, and just to kind of show you, that right there that you see on the end of that is a magnetic tip made to pull any debris, metal shavings, or anything out of the transmission and down there and ready to come out when you pull the plug out. I am going to go ahead and wipe the plug off with a clean rag to give you an idea of what this actually will have on it. So that's what the rag looked like afterwards. I'll clean it a little bit better, but I mean, it is a nice thing to have in there. And you can also buy these for your oil pan also, and just kind of directs all metal material to the bottom instead of letting it keep flow through the transmission or engine if you have one in your oil pan. This is it with the plug back in there. Just so you know, Honda, when you go to get the transmission fluid, if you don't know anything about when the last time this was done or anything, they do sell a washer that goes on there, and it's kind of a compression washer, and after a while they get wore out. And so what I'll do is every once in a while I'll replace it. This one today was still good because I just put it on there a while back, but I did want to let you know about that. It just helps prevent leaks. If you can look around there real good, you can see it's all dry and clean. Once I wipe it down with a rag, I will take a little bit of brake cleaning spray around it and then wipe it off again. This way I know later on if there's a leak for any other reason besides just my leftover mess. I have taken the plug out of the top of the transmission, and as you can see, I got a funnel here. It's a pretty long one too. It comes up at least that far. They do make longer, but this is as long as I could find locally today. My old one had broken. So anyways, this is where you will dump in your transmission fluid after you have drained it and put the plug back in and cleaned everything up underneath the vehicle. All right, the transmission is now full. The plug is back in there and torqued down to the specifications I put in at the beginning of this program. Again, there's also a washer on top here that goes underneath that. And sometimes you won't notice it because when you take that plug out, more than likely if that washer's kind of stuck on there, it'll stay on there when you pull the plug out. I did take it out, clean it, made sure I cleaned about where I filled. Make sure that when you put the fluid back in, first, the funnel that I showed you earlier, that funnel, I did have to squeeze the top of it to get it kind of down in there around some of the hoses and whatever else. Don't be afraid to do that. Just try not to knock any dirt or debris down into the transmission because that's not what they like. And then when I pour the transmission fluid, I turn the quart. It's kind of hard how to say this, but when I go to pour it, I don't pour it like a normal quart. I flip it upside down and pour it, and that allows the air to flow into it as it's flowing out and keeps it from kind of chugging on you and flipping back and forth. And you want to pour slow because the last thing you want is a mess anywhere down around there, because as you can see, there's all kind of components and whatever else, and you just don't want to have to clean up that mess. In order to get my ratchet to spin okay, I did move this piece right here, just pulled it around this way, it'll pull, and then I slid it back to where it belongs, which is where it's at right now. In order to check the fluid level, I would reach down here and I'll pull the dipstick with my thumb through this yellow hoop. I will pull it out. You gotta be careful because it does make a little bit of a mess. But I'll bring it over and I'll look at it on the dot. Now it's not going to show the same here as if I was seeing it myself because of just the way it's being filmed. But you want it to be up to that top dot or right below it. And I'll put it back there in the dipstick tube and shove it down. Now what I will do is I'll pull that out. I'll wipe it off with a clean rag, and then I'll put it back down in there and pull it out again to look at the actual level. I won't take the first reading in case something splashed on it or anything else if you were to start the vehicle and the fluid's moving around in there. Okay, so I took the car for a test drive and brought it back and let it set for a little bit. I did check the fluid level. Everything checked out okay. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope it helped you out. Please don't be afraid to like it and share it with others. And just remember, all it takes is your own ambition.